This clique of rich kids decided to have a night out, but things went from bad to worse after they decided to do drugs. This movie I'm about to show you is a complete definition of the Gen Z type of reality. So sit back, relax and be entertained as we go on this ride together. As the movie begins, we can see a girl named Sophie, traveling with her girlfriend B, for a hurricane party. When they arrived at the venue, it is a huge mansion owned by Sophie's childhood friend, David. Sophie meets up with her friends at the pool. They include Alice and Greg, her vet boyfriend. David with his girlfriend Emma, who is an actress for a TV show. Then Jordan, the only single girl among them. Sophie introduces the group to be saying they are her close friends from way back. They were all surprised because they didn't know Sophie would eventually show up for the hurricane party. According to them, she didn't even text on the group chat to let them know she was coming with a friend. Just as they were talking, Greg comes up with a champagne, flexing his reflexes. He uses a sword and then popped open the champagne. As they were all celebrating, the storm began, which made the group more excited. The heavy downpour resulted them going back inside the house. Back at the house, Jordan goes over to B. She tells B to be careful around Sophie because she is rich and B is just a working class girl. Meanwhile, Sophie goes over to meet David, her best friend. David tells her that Alice's boyfriend is a soldier in Afghanistan and he isn't much attractive because he is way much older than Alice. They went on to talk about Max, one of their friends, punching David on the face after they had a little argument. The group went on to make TikTok videos as they share lovable moments together. After getting high on drugs and drinks, they decide to play a game they call Bodies Bodies Bodies. A murder kind of game. If you end up as the murderer, you have to sneak around and kill people by just touching them. If as a player you eventually come across a victim, you need to yell so the group will gather around and figure out who the murderer is. It is just like the popular Among Us. Before they begin playing the game, they take shots and slap themselves to feel alive. David ends up hitting Gregory so hard, which sparks an enmity between the two. The group then switches the light off, so as to proceed with the game. Everyone went into hiding including B, who is new to the game. A murderer is among them and they have to find the murderer or else they lose the game. Just as they are playing the game, they find Greg's body on the floor and now have to nominate the killer. David tries to nominate Emma as the killer because she was agreeing to what everyone else is saying and doing, but Emma denies it, saying she isn't the murderer. As the group were all nominating each other as the murderers, B notices that Greg hasn't been moving. Alice tries to wake him but still no response. The group becomes afraid as they find out that he wasn't moving his body. David then comes to their rescue as he helps resurrect Greg, who is play acting. The group becomes relieved when they find out that Greg was just actually pretending. David and Greg then engaged in a little argument which made Greg quit the game. He tells them to have fun without him and he is going over to sleep. The group then continues with the game. David tries to nominate Emma, his girlfriend again, but this time he ended up saying mean words to her which made her cry. The group tells him to console his girlfriend because she is broken, but he remained adamant. This resulted the group in nominating David as the murderer because his reactions towards Emma was rude. David becomes angry and then quits the game also. The girls then continues with the game, but suddenly the power goes off. They suspected it was David and then proceeded to fix the light issues. As B goes in search of the bathroom, she finds David outside hitting hard on the glass door with his throat slashed. The group finds him too and then rushes over to save him. They tried calling the emergency number but it wasn't going through as there was no connection. The girls becomes confused as they try to reach out for help. They try to take Sophie's car so they can look for help but soon discovers that her battery is dead. As the girls were in mourning and confused on how David actually died, Jordan shows up with a sword with blood painted on it which shows that David was actually killed. The girls then became afraid as there was a murderer among them. They tried to put the blame on Max, who had a little argument with David before he left the house last night. But Emma tells them that there is no way Max would kill David because of a little argument they had over her. Max had confessed his feelings to Emma, which resulted in a fight between David and Max. Jordan then suspects that Greg might have something to do with David's death, because they engaged in a little argument and nobody really knew Greg. Even Alice, his girlfriend, doesn't know much about him. Alice tries to stop them from confronting him. She tells them that Greg is a nice person and there's no way he will kill David, but the girls had already made up their mind. They equipped themselves with knives as they proceeded to search for Greg. When they got to his room, they couldn't find him in there. The situation becomes more tensed as they couldn't find Greg. Jordan then decided to search through his things. They found a go bag containing a knife and the map of the whole house. Becoming more suspicious, they decide to look for Greg all over the house. They finally found him at the gym room sleeping. The girls wakes him up. Greg was so surprised to see them with such serious looks and weapons in their hands. He assumes that they were still playing the game and then decides to be playful, but the girl stops him saying someone killed David. They became hostile towards him because they suspected he is the murderer. Much wasn't known about Greg and they felt he was also in the military, which will give room for violence. Greg then discovers that the girls are serious, so he picks up a weapon too. He tells them to think it through and put down their weapons. But they wouldn't believe him. They kept on accusing him for killing David. This resulted in a struggle between Greg and the girls. During the struggle, B uses a kettlebell to hit Greg hard on his head, which killed him. Alice became devastated. She tells the crew that Greg wasn't involved in David's murder. But Jordan disagrees, saying he was the only person most likely to commit violence because he served as a vet at Afghanistan. Alice then tells the crew that Greg was a veterinarian and wasn't even involved with the military. Alice became angry and then blames B for killing an innocent Greg. This made B throw up because she has done something bad. Sophie then consoles and tells her to go change her shirt. The situation becomes worse as nobody knew who killed David. After Sophie had coked up, she returned back to the group and accused Emma of making the situation look as if it was about her and Max. Emma had defended Max, saying there's no way he would kill David because he confessed his feelings for her. This results in an argument between them. But later on, a sober Sophie apologizes to Emma. Emma then kisses Sophie, which made Sophie confused. She tells Emma that she acts as if everyone is in love with her. Before Sophie left, she gives Emma drugs, which Emma accepted. Later on, during a search for Emma, Alice finds Emma's dead body at the bottom of the stairs. She alerts the others immediately as they rushed over to her. The group were very much afraid as they suspect that there is still a killer among them. Alice tells them that they were all being murdered because of the game they played. And they have to find the murderer of the actual game they played. But the logic doesn't fit in the situation properly, which made the crew dismiss the thought. After Alice casts suspicion on B, Jordan follows, saying she googled B, but there was no one with that name at the college she claimed to have graduated from. B tries to explain, but they wouldn't let her as the suspicion grew more stronger. Alice then shouts at her for killing her boyfriend. This made the crew throw B out into the hurricane. Under the heavy rain, B runs over to Sophie's car. She finds an underwear that matches Jordan's bra back inside the house. She sees Jordan holding a gun through a window. Suspecting that Jordan might be the killer, she quickly finds a way back to the mansion through a passage. As she got inside the house, she warns the others that Jordan has a gun in her pocket, but Jordan denies the accusations and even emptied her pockets to prove that she wasn't in possession of a gun. B then tells the rest of the group that Jordan is the killer and she was actually the person that murdered Emma. Jordan denies it again, saying there is no way she would kill her old friends. Jordan tells the girls not to believe B, because she is a liar and she literally lied to everyone. B explains to the girls that she didn't lie but had to drop out of college just so she can take care of her sick mother who has borderline disorder. During the conversation, an argument ensues and it is revealed that Jordan is actually the killer from the bodies. She engages in an argument with Sophie about her addictions and why she actually left them in the first place. Sophie tells the girls that they trigger her addiction and challenges her sobriety. Jordan continues with the argument. She tells B that Sophie is cheating on her. And she had sex with Sophie before they arrived at the hurricane party. Sophie denies it. She tells B that Jordan is just trying to get in her head and she shouldn't listen to her. Sophie then tells Jordan that she has no empathy and that is why things can never work out between them. She goes on to reveal that Jordan actually hates Alice's podcasts and then pretends to Alice that she enjoys it. This left Alice heartbroken. She then responds by insulting Jordan. Out of anger, Jordan shoots Alice in the leg. This led to a gun struggle as they all wanted to take the gun away from Jordan. In the process, Alice was shot in the throat, which resulted to her death. Jordan swears that she didn't shoot Alice and then holds B and Sophie at gunpoint. She warns them not to follow her, but then a fight ensues between them. As Sophie and Jordan were fighting, B pushes Jordan over the staircase, which led to her death. With Jordan dead, Sophie is left with only B in the mansion. Sophie tells B that they should stay together till the next morning, but B runs away as she doesn't trust Sophie any longer. The next morning, Sophie meets up with B. She apologizes to her and then confesses that she gave Emma drugs which made her fall from the staircase and die. B consoles Sophie as she cries, but suddenly she holds her at gunpoint, demanding to see her phone and the texts between her and Jordan, but Sophie tosses her phone away, which results in a struggle for the phone. When they eventually recovered the phone, they found out that it wasn't Sophie's phone. B then goes over to David's dead body. She picks up his phone, which shows that David had accidentally slashed his throat while making a TikTok video. The girls then realizes that they were no murderers and David actually killed himself, which meant all the bloodshed were just in vain. Max then arrives at the house. He was confused as the place was in a mess with dead bodies lying around every corner. The end. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more contents like this.
You know I'm addicted to you, and it's twisted, you've been gifted with the evil.